Welcome to Shameless. Here we explore the transformative power of courage and action.
Welcome. My name is Dzikamai Gangaidzo and I'm a T4L ambassador. And welcome to today's episode of Shameless, brought to you by Transformation Leader. Today we have, on the other side, go for it. Tell us who you are.
Hi, I am Nono, Bokete, a T4L ambassador, and you can check out more about Transformation Leader on www.t4leader.com. Let's get right in.
All right, perfect. So today I wanted to actually find out, as a transformational leader, what tools do we use in order for people to be able to start working, start challenging, start changing, start transforming? Because I think we've talked a lot about different things. And it's great to talk, but it's more important to do. And so today's conversation is, how do we start doing over talking? And Nono, I don't know whether you've had any experiences about people struggling to start, whether your own journeys you've struggled to start, and sort of how did you go through it step by step towards getting to a point where you're in a rhythm, you're in a flow, and you're actually hitting the targets on multiple different things?
In Transformation Leader, you probably have then read the book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it talks about various different concepts around how you can make habits sustainable and everlasting so that you're able to actually change and transform your life. In a day-to-day basis, you'll find that it might be more difficult to think about this big, huge, bulking goal that you want to achieve. And it's better to just, break it down into smaller things. So identify what it is, create a system that's going to help you achieve that goal, which will then inevitably give you the desired outcome. Now, there are multiple ways in which you can start, and I'm actually just going to talk about my personal experience, because in most instances, I do like a big goal, and then I break it down by year, by quarter, by month, by week, and by day. And depending on when that goal is expected to start or when that goal is expected to end, I will then be able to say, okay, if I look at my year, I know that I need to start training on a specific course by Q2, and I'm expected to get the certification no later than Q3. So when exactly do I start in Q2 and when exactly do I end in Q3 becomes a little bit of a flex depending on my schedule, but I know that that is the time limit that I've given myself. So as long as I do it within that time limit, I'm happy. But there are some goals that need to be a little bit more specific, more time bound, more time sensitive because of the outcome. If you are, for example, working on project deliverables and your client says that you need to be able to deliver a project by the end of the month, you can't go, well, I'll do somewhere between Q2 and Q3. You know that you have 2 weeks left of the month and maybe you have 60% of the project yet to be completed. So now you need to break down those specific tasks, and you can use things like work breakdown structures in an overall sense. But then there's also just day-to-day life of starting and planning your general life. And I have been in a position where it's like, I wanted to start doing something completely different because I like trying out a lot of different things, as you probably can tell, even if you just look at my profile. And I was struggling to start with this one thing because I really wanted it to be perfect. I wanted to have everything in place. And I remember, this is going to make me sound so shady, but I remember watching...
Go for it. We don't mind shady.
I remember watching somebody's version of what I was trying to do and going, this is so bad. And because I thought that that person's version was so bad, it gave me the courage to start, because I was like, well, there's no way I can be as bad as that person if I strike her. Nah, that I know. I know I'm better than that. And if that person has the balls or the gall to start, then what's my excuse? So I think that sometimes, it sounds terrible, but sometimes finding somebody else who maybe is suckier than you to actually give you that courage to start Can that help me out? Just
I
true
mean,
story.
and,
Literal
and
true story.
and the thing is, you talk about throwing shade. That is the height of shade by
Wow, I thought you said
or
it was a safe space.
it's a safe space. But however, one thing that I absolutely enjoy about what you say is that too often and for too long, a lot of people get stuck in the idea that they have to be perfect. And the reality is that there are people out there doing something, and they're doing something even though they might not be fantastical at it. And I'll give you an example to add to that, because I also had that syndrome where I was like, you know what? Surely I've seen this person do it and they're not doing it so great. Surely I can also do it. And I don't do it as well as I thought I could. And I think I'm as bad as the person, but I've been getting better and better. And that is actually hosting a podcast. and but the reality of it all is that if I don't do it, if I didn't start, if I don't continue doing it, when will I get better and how will I get better? And usually also a lot of the time, you actually think you're worse than you are in reality. And at the end of the day, you still can move the whole discussion. So I'm with you on that. It's just that I wasn't better than the person that I thought I was, than I was looking at.
I hope I wasn't the person.
No, I would never. So,
Not out loud. It's a safe space.
no, I just wanted to also ask you something. You talked about a work breakdown structure, WBS. Could you maybe shed a bit of light as to what is that? Because it sounds like an interesting tool, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so a work breakdown structure is basically a project management term which will be discussed in the next block for Transformation Leader, which is under leading others. But I'm using it loosely in terms of applying it into your own personal life, where you break down your tasks into smaller productivity outputs. So, for example, if I am going to say that I'm going to write a book, okay,
Oh
so
yeah,
there are
done
multiple
that, done
things
that.
that but the multiple things that go into writing a book, it's not just like writing a book. You have to edit it, you have to make sure that it's and you have to decide before you even edit it. You also have to decide how long do you want this book, what genre is it in, how many characters, what's the storyline, what's the hooks and turns, and all that sort of stuff. You kind of have to have that body on that, and that might seem like a daunting task, but then you could break it down to say, okay, maybe I'm gonna say I want to have 10 chapters, and each chapter is going to be about 5,000 words. So now you need to create, now you've kind of confined your project. Now with that, it's like, okay, well, how quickly does it take you to write 5,000 words? Well, maybe it takes you a month to write 5,000 words. So you now know that because it takes you a month, it's going to take you about 10 months to write a 10,000 word, 50,000 word book, or whatever the case may be. Because you're able to do that, you're now able to even track your progress to go, well, in month one, I did 2,500 words. I'm already behind schedule. So what do I need to do to make my task smaller so that I can achieve that? So you could even look at your schedule. And I love writing down my schedule on a good old-fashioned parchment.
What is
Other-
that?
It's something that, if you're young, you might not know this, but back in the day, people used to write things on like paper. And it's like, it feels like really rough. Like if you like on a table, it feels like that. It's that kind of, and it's very, very
Oh,
thin.
wow.
Yeah. So, and sometimes it has lines, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it has grids on it. But I love using that.
Mind blown. I mean, completely. So you go back and you get your pencil or pen out and you actually physically write down. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying to
I
me?
do. I physically write down, and I even stick it on my fridge or put it on like my mirror, whatever, depending on what sort of schedule it is.
Why do you think you do that?
I think that I like to physically touch it for whatever reason, because I obviously have, maybe not obviously, but I have a pad that has all these apps on it that you can, write your schedules on. But for whatever reason, me going through the process of writing, and it's not like I do it once and then it's okay. I usually have like 3 rounds of it where I go, okay, I want to do this, I want to do this, and just looking at physically like what my weekly schedule will look like, because I will write a specific list that says, okay, this year I need to do this academically, this physically, this, health wise, etc., etc. So I know what my goal is for the year. And then on my weekly schedule, which is pretty much standard and it might flux here and there, is just what time am I waking up in the morning? What am I actually going to try and accomplish each day? And sometimes I can just do blocks of time of work. So I won't go as specific as study 10 hours per week, but I could just say, I know that I need to do 30 minutes a day of study, but I might need to accomplish 2 or 3 different accreditations. So I'm not going to be specific to say, okay, only study for this accreditation. It's just like, that's your study time. Whatever you feel like studying, that's up to you. And I feel like that really works for me because it allows that flexibility. It doesn't make me feel so confined as to, oh my gosh, if I didn't study on this, I didn't really feel like it because maybe I had a meeting and we're talking more about this other thing that then leads itself better to studying whatever else. I can. And I think that having it written on a piece of paper and putting it on my fridge and then canceling it out, especially when it comes to working out, it is such a nice feeling to just go X, 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 get to the end of the year, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm good.
I'm finding it interesting. So you start off with an entire year worth of your goals. You break that down and you physically write that.
I have like a 10-year, 5-year,
Okay.
goal, right? But I feel like, realistically, you can have your 10 years, but what are you doing year on year to kind of get to that 10-year goal? So it's like having that kind of end in sight, you can skate it all the way down to bring it down to 365 days in that year. And it's really important. I think it's really, really important to actually do this exercise. And whether you use an electronic device, whether you use one of the tools that we have on T4L on the app as well as the website, you need to actually sit down and go, what am I actually doing on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis? Because time flies. And I think that if you're not intentional with how you spend your time, it is very easy to look back for 2 years, 3 years and be like, what the have I done with my life?
And so that whole intentionality, one aspect that you said was, it's not just being intentional about work, but also the mental, the physical. Like, why do you incorporate all of that as part of your discussion point?
I think that it's important to be holistic. So, family time is important, friends time. How do you regenerate? Because yes, you can work, but at the end of the day, when you are, at least I'm told, because I haven't been there yet, but apparently at the end of your life, and you're lying on your sick bed, you're like, hey, no one's saying, I wish I spent 2 more hours in the office. They're going, oh man, I wish I spent more time with my kid that no longer talks to me because they hate me because I was working so much. Think that it's always possible to be in your 4 quadrants, if it's like, family, work, physical activity, spirituality, whatever your 4 quadrants are. I don't believe that you can always be in the same amount of space in all 4. I think that sometimes you're really good at one and then you're really bad at another. But I think that it's very important to be conscious of where you're spending the time throughout the year, so that in the year, when you do like, okay, let's reconcile how our year went, you actually were even on all 4, even though you might not have been on even all 4 on every single day or every single month.
So when you talk about the 4 quadrants, when I used the T4L 4 quadrants, when I did the T4L 4 quadrants task, it was important for me to do that because I realized by doing that I was actually neglecting a large portion of sort of a spiritual side to myself, and rather I wasn't well-rounded as a person. I was doing a bit of this, a bit of that, but definitely I was neglecting something that I think was probably a bit harder. And doing that exercise really helped me step back, think about it, and step through the issues. And so that whole balance to my life is probably more attributed to the fact that I can actually touch all corners or all the whole circle rather than just focus on these tasks at work. And usually when I write down something or I put down a task list, it is very much focused on the things that come to mind easily, as opposed to making sure I'm intentional, that I am touching all the corners of my personality or my well-being. So I think that is I love that, and I think too often we forget about that.
3 pieces of advice that you can give someone to actually get started today to start transforming their lives and being way more impactful than they were yesterday.
Did you say 3?
Okay, 4. 1.
Thank you. So the first one is, you have to have a plan. And that plan, in my view, should be very small. You can always increase, but you should start as a very small plan. And I'll give you an example. Going to the gym, I'm going to spend 10 minutes in the gym. It is very simple, very small. Number 2, it has to be very specific. I'm going to spend 10 minutes in the gym every Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and I will start at 6 a.m. Then it really helps and prepares the specificity about what I'm trying to achieve and do. The third thing is, I will prepare. I will put my things out every morning or in the evening so that when I wake up, I'm already halfway there towards actually getting on the ball and actually running. Because nobody ever wants to start. You'll find any excuse not to go to the gym at 6 a.m. in the morning, especially if your clothes aren't already waiting for you, looking at you, giving you those guilt eyes. And so for me, putting that there is incredibly important. Then the last one is, I look to have somebody help me be accountable. So having an accountability buddy. And that there's 2 ways of doing that. Writing that down and ticking that off is one, but also having somebody who you're actually doing this with. So having a gym partner, so that when you wake up and you have that little doubt in your mind, you know that somebody else is on the other side is also expecting me to be there. And they might be thinking the same thing, but we don't know. So at the end of the day, we just end up being in the gym at the same time because we put that expectation on each other. And therefore that drives us. And all of these things, for me, you stack habits. So all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create the habit of making plans. I'm trying to create the habit of preparing before I sleep. I'm trying to make the habit of putting each one of these things happen right after each other. And I think that taking the whole process, even if I don't go to the gym, but if I prepare my clothes, and every week I prepare my clothes, and I don't end up going to the gym, that's fine. The following week, I will prepare my clothes, and eventually you will end up in the gym, whether you intended to or not. And so I always look at the problem as it's one that requires, that you could always grow upon, you could always stack upon, and it's an incremental growth. And that's what I see when I look at the tools that are needed in order to start anything. And before we go, because we always have to have a quote, and this one we almost didn't, but the quote for today is, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. The most important thing is to start.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share as we embark on our mission to impact 1 million African lives by 2026.